Assalamu alaikum. I'm Mohidul Amin Ahmad Mustafi, Assistant Professor, Khaza Yunus Ali University. Today, I'm discussing about the multivariate regression analysis. So, actually, we want to know when you are considering more than two variables, and one is dependent variable, and another more than one independent variables. In that time, we want to discussing the influence of independent variable on dependent variable, we have to use the multiple regression analysis. Now, today I am discussing about it. So let's go to my discussion part. Okay. Okay. This is the learning outcomes. After discussing this chapter, students should understand, use multiple regression analysis to describe and interpret the relationship between several independent variables and dependent variables. And second learning objective is evaluate how well a multiple regression equation fits the data. And third is evaluate the assumption of the multiple regression. And fourth is the apply multiple regression techniques to develop a linear model. So when to know what is the multiple regression analysis? Multiple regression analysis or multiple regression is a statistical technique that can be used to analyze the relationship between a single dependent variable and several independent variables. So what is the objective of the multiple regression analysis? The objective of multiple regression analysis is to use the independent variables whose values are known to predict the value of the single dependent variable. Okay. For example, if you are doing a multiple regression to try to predict blood pressure, the dependent variable, from the independent variables such as height, weight, age, and hours of exercise per week, you had also want to discuss sex as one of your independent variable. So when to know what is the difference between simple linear and multiple linear regression. Simple linear regression has only one independent variable and one dependent variable, but multiple regression has one dependent variable and two or more independent variable. For instance, when we predict rain based on square feet alone, that is simple linear regression. Okay, that is the assumption of the multiple regression analysis. Multiple regression is based on the following assumption. Number one, a linear relationship between dependent and independent variable. And second thing is the independent variable are not highly correlated with each other. That means the correlation between those independent variable is not greater than or equal 0.85. If the correlation between those selected independent variable is higher than 0.90, that means our common method biasness arise. So you have to think about it. The variance of the residual is constant. That means every residual every independent or dependent variables relationship. That means every residual variance of the residual coefficient, variance of the residual, that means error, is constant. And fourth is independent of observation, and fifth is multivariate normality. That means you have, when you are checked the multivariate normality, you have to use the Mahalanobis and Koch or Koch's distance. Okay. There is the general multiple linear regression. Y is equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 xi1 plus beta 2 xi2 and so on. Here y is the dependent variable or predicted variable, and beta 1 to beta 0 is the interceptor, is the y-intercept. That means the value of y when both xi, x1, x2 and so on are 0. Beta 1 and beta 2 are the regression coefficient representing the change in y relative to one unit change in xi1 and xi2 and so on. Beta p is the slope of the regression. Beta p is the slope of the regression coefficient, slope of the coefficient of each independent variable, and E is the, or epsilon is the model random or residual term. R square value. What does an R square value of 0.80 means? R square, or that means this is the coefficient of determination. R square or R square explain the degree to which your input variable explain the variation of your output, that meant predicted variable. So if the correlation, if coefficient of determination is 0.80, it means 80% of the variation in the output variable is explained by the input variable. There is a practical example. The use of East Coast is where the Salisbury reality sells home. One of the most frequently asked questions by potential buyer is how much it will cost to heat this house in the winter if we buy it. A set of recommendation for a single family home heating cost has been requested from Salisbury Research Development. Average daily output temperature, attic insulation thickness, and furnace size are three factors assumed to be related to heating cost in year. A random sample of 20 recently sold residents was selected by Salisbury's research department for investigation. Both the outside temperature in January and the cost of heating is residents were calculated. That is the scenario of the a random sample of 20 recent sold residents was chosen by Salisbury Research Division for investigation. It calculated the cost of heating is a property in January as well as the region's January average temperature, the thickness of attic insulation, and the furnace size. Table number 1 includes a sampling of the data. In here, cost is the independent cost of every house cost. Cost is 250 while the temperature is 35 degree, insulation of attic is 3 and age is 6 and so on. Here the summary of the output of multiple R square, that means correlation coefficient is 0.89 and R equal to R square is 0.8. That means this is the coefficient of determination 0.804 adjusted R square is equal to 0.867, sorry, 0.767, standard error 51.059, observation is 20. ANOVA, the regression, degrees of freedom is 3, some squares of regression. SSR is this mean square and distribution. And the coefficient of data, the coefficient, this is the regression output. Intercept is 427.194. Temperature is minus, the coefficient of temperature is minus 4.583. Insulation minus 14.831, and age is 6.10. This is the coefficient of the determination. Sorry, this is the regression coefficient. This is the regression, 3 regression coefficient, and this is the significant or p-value. Okay, so what does it mean? Okay, sorry. So answer of the following question. First one, they determine the multiple regression equation. Second is which variable are the independent variable and which variable is the dependent variable. Discuss the regression coefficient. Okay. Third one is there, what does it indicate if the some coefficient are positive and some coefficient are negative. And fourth one, what is the estimated heating cost for a home if the mean outside temperature is 30 degree? There are 5 inches of insulation in the attic, and the furnace is 10 years old. And question number 5, mention the coefficient of determination and explain it by using on word. Okay, let's go to the answer sheet. Question number 1. Y is the heating cost, X and X1 is the daily outside temperature, X2 equal to the thickness of attic insulation, and third one is the furnace age. So there are 3 independent variable. That means that is IV, and 1 dependent variable. That is 1 independent variable is heating cost. That means heating cost depends on 3 independent variable: the daily outside temperature, the thickness of attic insulation, and the furnace age. Here the multiple regression going to consider y equal to a plus b1 x1 plus b2 x2 plus b3 x3 and plus epsilon error term. This is the error term. This is the 3 regression coefficient, beta 1, b1, b2, and b3. This is the 3 independent variable, and y is the dependent variable. From the analysis part, the regression coefficient, the regression equation is intercept term plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2 x2 plus beta 3 x3, and so on. From the required multiple regression equation, y equal to 427.194 minus 4.583 x1 plus minus 14.831 x2 plus 6.101 x4 is the required regression equation, which is taken from this part, which is taken from the regression coefficient or regression table. Okay. Then answer number 2. Question number 1. Question number 2. Which variable are the independent variable? Which variable are the dependent variable? Actually, we want to discussing about it. Here the 3 independent variable: outside temperature, insulation of attic, and furnace age, and the 1 dependent variable, heating cost. Question number 3. Discuss the regression coefficient. We want to discuss in question number 3. What does it indicate if some variable are positive and some variable are negative. What does it mean? Okay. Here, from the regression table, beta B1 equal to minus 0.4583. It indicates if the daily outside temperature is increased by 1 unit, the heating cost will be decreased by 4.583 unit. That means beta coefficient is negative. It's indicate negative means when one variable is increased, then another variable is decreased. What the, that means if independent variable has increased, then dependent variable will be decreased. That means opposite direction, opposite relationship. Here, beta B2 equal to minus 14.831. It indicates that if the thickness of attic insulation is increased by 1 unit, the heating cost will be decreased by 14.83 units. That means if thickness of attics is increased, then our heating cost is decreased. That means when a home outside insulation of attic, thickness of attic insulation means when it's an obstacle, it's a barrier of uh, uh, barrier of wind, cold weather, cold weather. Okay. Here, beta 2 equal to 6.101. It indicates if the age of furnace is increased by 1 unit, that means heating cost will be increased in 6.101 unit. Okay. Question number 4. If what is the estimated heating cost for a home if the mean outside temperature is 30 degree? There are 5 inches of insulation in attic and the furnace age is 10 years old. So what is the estimated heating cost? This is the actually this is the regression equation which is which is taken from the regression table. And if x1 means the outside temperature, x2 means the attic of insulation 5 inches. If the attic of insulation is 5 units and the outside temperature is 30 degree and the furnace age is 10 years, what is the heat estimated cost? Estimated cost means estimated value, that is indicate the estimated value. Estimated value of y equal to $276.56, $276.56 when the outside temperature is 30 degree and insulation of attic is 5 inches and furnace age is 10 years old. Our estimated heating cost is 276.56 unit. Okay. And then question number 5. When how will you comment on the R square? That means here the R square value is 0.804. Actually, my dear student, you should understand the coefficient of determination. What is the range of the coefficient determination? Coefficient determination range 0 to 1. If the coefficient of determination is 0.804, it indicates 80. That means you have to multiply 100. That means 80.44%. It indicates 80.4% of the variation in the dependent variable. That means heating cost is explained by the independent variable like outside temperature, insulation of attics, and furnace of age. So that's all for the timing. Actually, I think you are understand. This is understandable. And if you fail if you feel that is good lecture, you have to subscribe or sharing. For that's all for the time. Thank you very much. Thank you for all.